Hope you're having a great week, everyone. Thank you for spending part of it with us. I'm JB Long with DeMarco Farr, and yes, this is a Week 3 edition of Between the Horns presented by your Southern California Toyota dealers, but most importantly, it's a surprise birthday party for senior rider Stu Jackson.
Your birthday?
Yesterday.
You sat on that the whole time? You didn't tell me? How old are you, 19?
Well, I'm getting closer to looking 22 is how I'm going to put it. Turned 30, but, depends on what kind of credit people are willing to give me at this point.
Wow.
Did you have a good one, buddy?
Yeah, it was great. Just caught up with some friends, had some dinner with them last night, and kept it kind of low-key. So it was good. I'm a simple person, just experiences at this point is really, and spending time with friends is, what I value, and so that was as good as any gift for me.
Do you know that about Stu? He's a simple man.
I did not know that. I had no ideas. I'm learning something.
One of the three of us still celebrates birthdays. That's good to know.
Yeah, I don't want to. Yeah, no more. Yep.
This week, as you know, it's Monday Night Football, a trip to Cincinnati to take on the 0-2 Bengals. Your Los Angeles Rams are 1-1. We'll get into Super Bowl memories. Mm-hmm. We will talk about Burrow and the state of the Bengals, and we'll get into some keys to victory. But let's start just with 2 data points now about your Los Angeles Rams. I think there's some things that we believe about them that has staying power, that can be characteristics of this group. And then there's probably some other things that we think need work for them to go from good to great. Who wants to lead off?
I'll start. Matthew Stafford has been better than advertised, or at least better than pubbed up this offseason. A whole lot of disrespect, in my opinion, when you didn't have him at the top of the best quarterbacks in the league. You kind of forgot about him. And we saw this guy all through training camp and mini camps like, wait a minute, man, I think this guy might be a little bit better than you think. And he's played that way the last 2 weeks. He's played with fire. He's played with passion. He's been petty, and I love it. The guy's always shooting for the end zone. So, yeah, I think Matthew Stafford has been as good, if not better, than advertised.
Play design's been excellent in terms of protecting him, which has been a theme of this offseason. I think the performance of the offensive line protecting him has been as we'd hoped. Execution by his eligible receivers, winning quickly, winning early, presenting him targets. And then I think Stafford's own decision-making, too. He's playing the long game. He's not trying to hold on to every rep until the bitter end. At sometimes he's been willing to see second or third down and play it out and convert that down. And I think he's one of those unique talents who can win any weekend against any opponent so long as he's upright. And I'm glad to see the Rams have prioritized that.
And to your point about the offensive line and the protection, too, I think that's a big part of it. Second fewest sacks allowed in the league through week 2, tied with 4 other teams. They've allowed just 1. Obviously, as the 3 of us know, that's not the only metric that measures pass protection, but when you have time to throw, especially when you give 9 time to throw, good things happen.
And that includes San Francisco, who can rush like the Dickens.
Exactly.
Look, I think everything. Stafford's been great. The O-line's been great. And McVay has been great. His offense has always been O-line friendly. I think that has played a part in why Matthew Stafford has been upright.
Discipline is the word that comes to mind with the offensive line so far to me. Consider that they've played 2 games in silent count environments. Stafford's second in the league in passing attempts, so they've been put in that position quite a bit. No false starts, 1 penalty, and it wasn't even like a true holding pass protection penalty. 1 sack allowed, so my hat goes off to Coleman Shelton in particular. Their center now every day. And then Steve Avila and the rookie class in general, I think, has been a bright spot. But in particular, that left guard has been excellent. He looks like a starter, not just of the future, but maybe at the highest level of the sport.
Yeah, if you guys follow Brandon Thorne, the offensive line analyst on Twitter who has his own newsletter, I feel like every week I get on the website and I see the clips he posts. Every other one of them, it feels like it's something about what Steve Avila is doing, whether it's his anchor point or what he's doing in protection, how well he's holding up. I mean, Javon Hargrave and Nick Bosa, like those are 2 very challenging matchups. Hargrave especially, I mean, some of those clips that I'm sure some of you saw, at least that I saw, it's like, my goodness, that does not look easy. And so I was really impressed with the way he held his own in the instances where he was also, even if he was beaten, the way he was still able to recover and protect Stafford. And so he's certainly been a really, really great bright spot, I think, for this offensive line, even early on in his career.
We're not just here to crown the Rams. We're going to get to some things that we know need improvement, perhaps as soon as week 3 against the Bengals. But let's keep going. What else have you liked so far? What stands out in terms of a characteristic for this group that you think will take them to where they want to go?
Puka Nacua. We kind of thought he'd be pretty good, but I mean, not this good. I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's accepted the challenge. It's not too big for him, and Tutu Atwell too. And we knew Tutu could run, but where he's catching passes and how he's doing it, and how active he stays in the run game. Not the biggest dude in the world, but he accepts the challenge. So when you start talking about Matthew Stafford letting the ball go and how pretty it looks, it's going somewhere. And usually it's been those two guys, but. Everything in connection with the offensive line up front, giving him time, and the play call, the play selection, and the receivers on the other end doing something after the catch, especially Puka. That's been something that I did not see coming, and it's been great to see on game day.
Well, and to that point as well, Matthew Stafford mentioned that probably the biggest credit that you can give Tutu is just his mastery of the offense. I can't remember if that was a comment that he made in the preseason or training camp or maybe early in the regular season, but when you have that and you have somebody who's capably learning all three of the receiver positions specifically, and is showing an ability not just to make plays deep downfield, but also in the short and intermediate levels. That's something that I think has been just as important and as demonstrable of a part of his growth as anything.
NFL Rookie of the Week, as many catches as he has, setting NFL and Rams records alike. I'm looking forward to his first catch in the end zone. It's about time, right? Week 3, and the Rams still haven't thrown a touchdown to a tight end or a receiver. I think that bodes well for one of the best offenses in the league so far. Anything you like on defense so far?
Besides Aaron? I mean,
yes, besides Aaron.
Besides Aaron Donald, yeah. I showed you the play I liked, and it was I think a 25-yard gain by the Niners. But you saw Russ Yeast come out of center field, and I mean, here's Deebo Samuel, one of the biggest, most physical receivers, and he's got Kittle as a lead blocker, and Yeast goes through both of them to knock the guy 5 yards out of bounds. So there's some good stuff there. But watching Byron Young, come around and get more reps, and I told you about Michael Hoyt. I think I have a pretty good nickname for him, American Ninja. When the ball goes away, this dude is running like an obstacle course. It's great. I mean, this is where he excels, chasing things down, and he loves kicking tight ends' butt, especially when the ball comes to him. So there's some things to like. There's some things you thought might be problems that have turned into strengths so far.
I think one of them is at least tackle to tackle containing the run. That was supposed to be the glaring weakness of this team. It didn't look good in the preseason, but when the right guys are in the right places, I think they've actually contained interior runs pretty well against a Seattle group that's built for it and against a San Francisco offense that might be the best this side of Philadelphia at doing that.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to touch on the secondary too, because as you've mentioned, for what's been referred to as the no-name secondary, this is a defense that currently ranks 6th in the NFL in total yards allowed, so that being 6th fewest, and 5th fewest passing yards allowed, and those are both on a per-game basis. And so from that standpoint, not only that part of it obviously is the defensive line, but also just the secondary is, really, I think, holding their own, at least so far, and against two offenses that, not only in the division and the league, but are, pretty capable of putting up points and obviously producing yards.
I do think the corners have to play better than they did against San Francisco to beat Cincinnati, though.
Oh, yeah.
That trio of receivers.
Stiff test this week. Yeah. Oh, yeah. San Francisco is a hybrid offense. They want to run it. It's very tricky. They catch you in a lot of stuff, but this is different. This is 3 receivers that can flat out play. They remind me of F1 drivers. They are competitors on the same football team. All 3 receivers. I mean, they really want it. They go after it, and they all think they're number 1 guys. So at some point, you're going to be on an island with a pretty good receiver.
For the secondary and really for the Rams, I thought week 1 was a story of we're better than any of you gave us credit for. Week 2 was more, hey, we've got a ways to go, and let's talk about what some of those ways to go are. But we've got the disposition to get there. We've got the competitive spirit to clean up those areas. Where can the Rams clean up going into week 3 at Cincinnati?
I think the biggest thing is getting more pressure. And I guess I don't know if you're asking specifically about the secondary or just the defense in general.
Anywhere,
but
period. I like it. It's a good answer.
Yeah.
Keep going.
But just, obviously, as we all know, Aaron Donald cannot do it by himself, especially as some of you have seen with a screenshot from that game.
Sure he can. I'm just kidding.
Well, when you're getting triple teamed, it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world. But, if Kobe Turner keeps progressing like it seems like he will, and if, Byron Young really figures things out and starts putting things together with some of his pass rush moves, I certainly think that can happen. But for me, that's what I'm looking for, because there are instances where, even just watching some of the tape from last week where, Aaron is this close to swiping the ball from Brock Purdy, and it's a 15 or so yard completion to Brandon Ayuk. So want to see more from that group, I think, which we all saw as something that was going to be a key storyline and something to watch this season, and so still keeping an eye on that as something to work on heading into week 3, I think.
Aaron's been doing the defensive line prayer. Do you guys know the defensive line prayer? Lord, just give me one more step. One more step. Just get him to hold it, and that's a sack. But, yeah, I mean, look, the pressure's coming. I think Byron Young is working himself, into shape here. And like you said, you're facing off against some of the best guys in San Fran, and that offense is tough. This week or this Monday in Cincinnati, I think it will be different. You'll have a chance to expose that offensive line. Now, the problem is they got good receivers that can expose you in the back end. So that's the thing. I saw this on tape. Aaron beats his guy fast. The problem is Kittle beat his man faster, and the ball came out. Yep. So that could be the same scenario in Cincinnati. So, Raheem Morris, your job is, let me see if I can get Joe Burrow to hold it just for a half second, and then maybe you'll get pressure on him.
His time to throw, though, in part because of his injury, is at a career low, as is his average depth of target. Even some of his own receivers are saying, hey, what happened to our vertical passing game? We're built for this, and we're not doing it. Again, guarding against their injured quarterback. That first takeaway for the Rams defense, though, is certainly out there, hopefully Monday Night Football week 3. I think run game efficiency is probably it for me, as good as the Rams have been offensively, including in the red zone where they've rushed for 4 touchdowns. Like, I give them a lot of credit for getting removal in the running game on a short field. Less than 3 yards per carry is bottom 5 in the league. And now that the clarity of the picture in the backfield is there for Kyren Williams, his time is now. Can't wait to see what it looks like.
Stu, tell me if I'm wrong. They've been close on a couple of runs. I mean, really, they've got what they wanted. They got hat on a hat blocking. They got the free hitter. The problem is the runner just couldn't deal with the free hitter and down on first contact. But I think if you stay with the run game long enough, eventually those tackles will turn into missed tackles, and away we go.
And I think they're also starting to figure things out from some of the gap scheme stuff they're doing in the run game too, because that's obviously a little bit different, compared to some of the zone concepts that the Rams have been doing in the past, that Sean McVay's done in the past with this offense. And so if the worst thing that you're trying to solve, or the worst problem you're trying to solve, is just having the runner make that last tackler, that last hat miss, to me that's a good thing to.
That's a positive.
Yeah. And something that's. I guess there are worse problems to have when it comes to problem solving the run.
And you're not trying to be San Fran or Baltimore. You're just trying to keep the defense honest enough to let Matt Stafford chew them up. That should be your game plan.
Speaking of Baltimore, the Ravens and the Browns combined to rush for about 400 yards, about a 5-yard per carry clip against the Cincinnati defense, a Bengals defense that largely took away the Rams running game the last time they played a meaningful contest in Super Bowl 56. I got one more, and that is get Van Jefferson going. I think that would really be something that I circle here in week 3. And for him and for the Rams in totality, 7 drops are most in the National Football League. Some of that is a volume play because they're throwing it so much. But as efficient as Matthew Stafford in the passing game have been, it can be better. It can be better if Van's involved.
I agree, JB. And the other thing I would say on that, too, is at some point defenses are going to figure out or get a better idea of how to play Puka and Tutu. And, yes, at some point you'll get Cooper back, but because of that, you'll still need Van to be someone you can count on and be a reliable target.
You think? I don't think like Puka is doing the Cooper Kupp impersonation. They're going to find ways to get him the ball. He's going to get open. Tutu the same way because, like you said, master of the offense. So Van is going to get his looks. The problem is if you don't bring these in, they're going to get Robinson out there to make plays. So it's not going to hurt the offense. It's going to hurt him. So maybe part of his game is still in Seattle with that drop. Maybe that's still haunting him a little bit. But whatever it is, you need to shake it off ASAP. Monday night would be a great time to shake it off and then start playing like we think you can play.
And I think he will. He had a great summer. I mean, those of us who watched a lot of the work here in Thousand Oaks and Irvine, like he was a force in this offense for most of the offseason program. He's got a track record of doing it. And based on what Sean McVay said the other night when he was in Stu's seat, I think the head coach wants Van to click in. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he catches the first receiver touchdown of the season for the 23 Rams.
Bro, he's always an issue, either crossing routes or just the one deep route with a bunch of crossers, and they show too much or give too much attention to this, and he's by you. I remember when Deshaun Jackson was here, and I said, wow, he's got to be the fastest receiver you have. And then we're like, no, it's actually Van. And Djax, he's known for speed, and Van is the guy. So, yeah, you need that element in your offense. You have to have it.
I was going to ask you guys for some Super Bowl memories. There's one. Van Jefferson and his wife going into labor as the Super Bowl confetti was falling and welcoming another child. What else? What else do you take away 589 days separated from Super Bowl 56 to Monday Night Football this week?
Aaron Donald making the play. Fourth down, I think, just putting enough pressure on Burrow to force that incompletion and seal the victory. I think that's something that will always stick out in my mind, not to mention the follow-up to the Ring Me celebration, right? How can you forget that? Whenever he gets a statue, if and when, I think that's a strong candidate for
that's the one, huh?
For commemorating him and his legacy. But yeah, probably that above all else for me.
When he's pointing to the ring, that's the statue.
Ring me.
How about a guy with two helmets on his hand swinging? No, I'm just kidding. That was against Cincinnati too. But no, I mean, look, that Super Bowl was unbelievable, and Cooper Kupp catching that, the touchdown pass, and it's like, is this real? Is this really happening? And then when the clock read 0 and you start to see the confetti come down, it's like, this just happened here in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? This can't be real. I don't want to wake up from this dream. Just a special year and a great ending to a great football season.
Let's think about what's different this week. Of course, the MVP of that game won't play, unfortunately. Neither will Von Miller. But one player who is in the mix, we'll see. Hopefully he's healthy for Cincinnati. Nick Scott. And you mentioned his name on this program last week and the force that he was to be reckoned with, including the hit on Deebo Samuel that may have turned the tide against the 49ers and entire that postseason, really.
That changed everything. It really did. They were just beating you up, and they felt that they were more physical than you, and Deebo was every bit of that. I mean, just trucking guys and beasting guys. And when he ran through, I think he ran through Jalen. So he ran through your toughest guy. So that really put the momentum on their side. But when Nick Scott absolutely took him out across the middle, that sent a message, this is going to be different, and it fired up the team. Almost like a hockey fight. When they send the enforcers out to fight, you fired up both sides, and you definitely fired up the Rams. So, yeah, I mean, Aaron getting the ring and Matthew Stafford going nuts, that hit was as big a part of winning the Super Bowl as anything that year.
Because you mentioned it, maybe because 33 on film this week wearing different colors brought it to mind again, but I don't think he and Eric Weddle will ever get enough credit for that postseason run. When you think about a 7th-round special teams ace starting at safety for one of the most majestic postseason runs ever, doing it next to a 2-year retired veteran, stepping in to cover for Jordan Fuller's injury. Man, there's so many untold stories. I can't wait for the docuseries about the 2021 Los Angeles Rams.
If they make a movie, whoever plays Weddle is going to win an Academy Award. You know what I mean? That's the one, right? Yeah.
And going out. We didn't even touch on the Hollywood Drive and 4th and 1.
Wow.
Jet sweep to Cooper Kupp right at Bryson Hopkins, doing just enough to keep that possession alive. But those are yesterday's Bengals. How about the current Bengals and the state of Joe Burrow? What do you make of his calf injury and what impact it's going to have on their season in totality, but especially Monday night?
Yeah, so Bengals head coach Zach Taylor said Burrow's day-to-day right now, and they're pretty much just trying to take a cautious approach with him. He told Cincinnati reporters that giving him time is best, and so taking that precautious approach, wait-and-see mode, and so that's basically where we're at after he aggravated the calf injury that he originally sustained in training camp, aggravated in week 2, I should say, last week. So we'll see. I mean, that would obviously be a big difference.
He's going to play, right?
He's going to play. How much do they pay him?
Well, if you rest him, there may not be a season to come back to when he is right. I mean, they're 0-2 for the 4th time in 5 seasons under Zach Taylor. They've done it before, but it's taken quite a bit of good fortune and good performance. I don't know that they can get back from 0-3, especially because they've lost 2 division games already.
He's going to play. His last pass was a touchdown.
There you go.
Yeah, his second half was phenomenal. So, I mean, that's the scary thing. He could be rounding into form. I could care less about what they say with the Theragun or what he's going through this week. If you turn on the film in the second half, he looks as good as he did when we played him in the Super Bowl here. So, and he still has weapons to boot. So,
if I didn't know he was hurt, I wouldn't have known he was hurt watching that film.
Absolutely. I mean, the last one, he's scrambling backwards and wings one underhand, and it's on a dime to T. Higgins. And he catches it, drops it, and they walk to the sideline. Well, yeah, we've done this 1,000 times. So, yeah, respect Joe Burrow. He's going to play.
But it is restraining their offense from its fullest potential. There's no denying that. They've got 20 points through 2 division games. They haven't held a lead yet, Stu.
Yeah, it's not the Bengals offense that, at least externally, I think, or even the three of us compared based on what we've seen in the past. It's not the offense that I think many expected to see at the beginning of the season, given what they've done historically with Burrow and especially Jamar Chase and T. Higgins at receiver. But because of Chase and Higgins especially, and the performance Higgins is coming off of, I don't think you can necessarily count them out or totally discount their offense as being unfixable or completely broken at this point.
For what it's worth, Jake Browning is the Bengals' backup, has never completed a pass in the National Football League. He's 0-1, but he was a darn good Husky, DeMarco. I will say that.
No doubt. Yes. Yeah, he's got a great pedigree. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see him on Monday.
Ready for Keys to Victory? Who wants to take this one?
Go ahead, Stu. Yeah. Birthday boy. 19 years old. Go ahead.
No better way to celebrate. I think one of the biggest keys for me is still going to be the secondary. I know I talked about the pass rush, and obviously disrupting the timing and rhythm, especially if Burrow ends up playing, is going to be important. But again, they still have Chase, they still have Higgins. Those guys are still very capable of making plays regardless of what you've seen statistically as far as the types of games each of them have had. And so after the way things went against the 49ers, obviously, I think you want to see a little bit better game from them, and tackling, especially preventing those yards after the catch opportunities is something that I think is going to be especially important on Monday night.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be raucous. It's going to be crazy. They're going to sell the heck out of it, Super Bowl rematch, whatever, but it's not about that. It's about this. So, look, I think it comes down to possession on offense, and I like the first drive for the Rams versus San Fran, how they kept it. It was very efficient, and you burned clock. That's great. As long as you keep the football, you squeeze them on the other end, and it limits how many times they can deploy Mixon. Mixon is a tough guy to bring down. So keep the ball on offense, gang tackling on defense. One of the few times you're ever going to see, this is versus San Fran, where you'll have more assisted tackles than solo tackles. That means guys are running to the football. You're going to need that in Cincinnati to win this football game.
What hurts a hurt quarterback more than anything else? Interior pressure. Mm-hmm. And given that the lasting memory of the most recent Bengals-Rams matchup was what you described, them being unable to combat the pressure of Aaron Donald, I know they've made significant investments in that offensive line, but it's statistically still underperforming. Not one piece graded inside the top 20 at that position, according to Pro Football Focus. 31st in pass block win rate among interior offensive lines, according to ESPN. You combine those forces and Burrow being less than 100% with Aaron Donald, just give him the chance to be the wrecking ball that he's always been, especially against this franchise. Give him that moment like he had at SoFi Stadium, and you might be flying home 2-1. Is that a cop-out to always take Aaron as my key to victory?
You're exactly right. Like you said, Joe Burrow is compromised. They're having trouble pass protecting. You've got one of the best defenders we've ever seen on this planet that's still bringing it. Yeah, that's a great key to victory.
What about the emotional edge? And I'll finish with this because matchups matter more. I get it. Scheme, performance, execution, the bounce of a football. Shoot, San Francisco fumbled 3 times. The Rams didn't get one of them. If they did, that might have been a different game. But what about the emotional edge that Cincinnati is going to have because their back is against the wall? Like, do the Rams have to match that level of desperation, dare I say? Because this is the team that goes to AFC championship games. If they go to 0-3, their season's probably done.
There's pressure there. There's expectation and pressure, but, how much can you really rep if you're Joe Burrow? If we're hearing that he's, they're being cautious with him during the week, that's going to affect them. So it's up to the Rams to start early, get a lead early, lean on them, put the pressure back on them, turn that crowd against him. It can't happen. And I'll steal one from the Bengals. I heard this from their radio booth. They're going to players, not plays. Like, forget the game plan. We're just going to our weapons we have and see if we can win there. So if T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are talking about let's throw the ball deep, I wouldn't be surprised if they try it just to see if they can get it done. But prepare for everything and get ready to see anything on Monday out of the Bengals.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, JB. I think you absolutely have to match that intensity and maybe even bring more of it yourself. I mean, this is a team that has had a chip on its shoulder, whether they pay attention to the outside noise or not, as far as how they were viewed externally and and the way people thought their season was going to go. And so a desperate team, I would say, at home can't take that for granted, can't afford to not play at or above that same emotional level, I would say.
For the birthday man, Stu Jackson, for DeMarco Farr, I'm JB Long. We will sing to you as we go out here. And by the way, tidy little back-to-back here, Cincinnati, and then homecoming for you. Indianapolis, the Colts around the other corner.
Always nice when it's not the combine that I can make that trip home. So,
Did you say sing?
Yeah.
Or what are we singing?
Well, let me just pay out the sponsor
God.
first. Between the Horns, presented by your Southern California Toyota dealer. After you, DeMarco.
What are we singing?
Happy birthday
To him?
to Stu.
Happy birthday to Stu.
Give him love, everybody. See
That's
you
all
next
you
week.
get.
more than enough.